Welcome back to the Banking on Digital Growth podcast. I'm your host, Derek Kraus. I am joined again today by my co-founder, Ryan Harmon, and we're going to talk about the recent AI traffic study that we concluded. And we've got some really good insights to share about AI bot traffic, how it works, why it matters, and how you optimize for it. So excited to share this information with you. Hey, Harmon, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, Derek.
So last week, we held an AI traffic roundtable that was really the lid on an AI traffic study that we've been running since February. And to give a little background on it, so last year, we really started working heavily on AI visibility. And if I think back to why we decided to start working there, I think for me, at least, it really began with I had been using AI a lot, in particular ChatGPT, but initially I thought the impact of AI on our business, where we're building websites for credit unions for Metrify, I thought the big impact was going to be that we would use AI to build websites, which we are doing that, but I was operating under the assumption that fundamentally what a website is would be the same. It's pages that humans come and visit and read and interact and learn about a credit union or a bank, and that would stay the same. It's just that the building of those sites was going to get a lot more efficient because of AI. And we were going to be able to do more cooler things on those sites because AI was going to help enable that development process. But then I needed to buy some new basketball shoes. So this is going back, I guess this was a year ago, huh? March of 2025. I remember because that's when I started playing basketball again. And I needed to buy some new basketball shoes because my knees were hurting. And I said, hey, ChatGPT, maybe I'm just old. And it said, well, actually, it might be that your shoes are old and worn out. So you probably need to get some new basketball shoes. And I said, okay, what basketball shoes do you recommend? And I talked with it about how I play and what I was hoping for in shoes. And it went out to the internet and did all the searching for me and came back and recommended different shoes that I could buy. And I ultimately decided on the shoes I was going to buy. And I realized at the end of that experience that I had not visited any of those brands' websites to help me make my decision. I didn't go to Nike. I didn't go to Adidas, Under Armour, And One, and so on, even though I considered shoes from all those places. And I said, wow, this is going to fundamentally change how people use the internet because now an AI agent is acting as an intermediary to go and find information for me. And so the AI is visiting websites on my behalf, and I don't visit the websites. That's a fundamental shift. So for me, that was the initial eye opener. And at that point, I was like, wow, we really need to get in the game from that perspective. Yes, we're going to use AI to build websites for humans to visit because that's still relevant. Humans are still visiting websites today. But in addition to that, we both felt like we really needed to start figuring out the other side with the agentic web. And we looked at the range of possibilities there. And we said, well, some things are still murky and unsure, like how's it going to work for AI agents actually taking action on your behalf? And that's a lot more clear today than it was a year ago. But what was very obvious to us is that people had started to use AI to search for products and services and to find information to help them make decisions. And so we decided to start there with AI visibility.
Mhm.
And then fast forward, we focused on that for several months. We had some really, really cool breakthroughs with being able to figure out what actually can increase visibility. And for anyone listening, if you're like, they keep talking about visibility, what is visibility? What it means is if you go and ask ChatGPT a question like, where can I get the best checking account in Salt Lake City? It's going to give you some sort of answer.
Mhm.
And typically it's going to go do a web search and try to understand the range of options. Then it'll come back and say, oh, here are credit unions and banks in Salt Lake City that offer checking accounts, and here are the best ones, and here's why. So when that happens, you want your credit union or your bank to be mentioned in the results. And if you are mentioned in the results, then you have visibility. If you're not mentioned in the results, then you don't have visibility.
Mhm.
And I know we've talked about visibility in the past on the podcast, but I felt like needed in talking about AI traffic, we needed to give some background there to say that's how we got started on this journey. We did a lot of work on AI visibility, but then the a question that kept coming up for us and for financial institutions that we were running experiments with is we'd run an experiment where they didn't have visibility for a prompt. Like
Mhm.
in the
Right.
roundtable last week, we shared an example with NW Preferred FCU where they wanted to show up for this prompt. Who has the best high yield savings accounts in state and Oregon?
Mhm.
And initially, we sent that to ChatGPT 25 times last July, and they had 0% visibility. They weren't mentioned even a single time in the responses from ChatGPT. So then we worked with them to help them develop and publish a couple of very targeted articles on that topic, answering the question, who has the best high yield savings account in state and Oregon?
Yeah.
Well, NW Preferred FCU does. And after they published those two articles, the next month in August, when we reran the analytics for visibility, they had gone from 0 to 100%
Yeah.
visibility. So not being mentioned at all to being mentioned every single time. And that was one of our first experiments. And we were like, wow, just publishing targeted content is what moved
Yeah.
the needle. And
Right.
they've had very high visibility since then. 100% visibility most months, with a few months in there where their visibility had dropped, but it's still very high even today. Now, that was in August, and it's April now. So, but with them, and I guess I don't remember if it was specifically with them or with some other. I know it's come up with some other credit unions for sure. If where the question is, all right, so our visibility increased. Uh, what does that mean for our traffic? Did we get
Mhm.
traffic from that? And the answer was, we don't know. Uh, there's no way to track that. We're just tracking if the brand is being mentioned, not if they're actually getting traffic as a
Right.
result of it. And that is what led to this question of, all right, well, how do you actually track AI traffic? And uh, I know you and I had talked about this, and you actually started working initially on some solutions for that, and then I ended up taking over the development of that. But tell me if you can think back to that period. Uh, Curious if you can recall your initial thoughts about tracking AI traffic and how you were thinking about going about it initially, and then we can tell more of the story of what we discovered and where we ended up.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so early on. I was unclear if it was even going to be possible. We didn't even know what sort of footprint an AI agent would leave behind. But my first intuition was that Google Analytics could tell us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, there's plenty of data in Google Analytics. I thought there's got to be a way to get this in Google Analytics. Uh, to this day, that's still murky. We don't use Google Analytics to track AI traffic. What we learned was that chat the big LLMs like ChatGPT, they do leave a footprint, but it doesn't seem to be tracked in Google Analytics because, well, this should have been more obvious in the beginning. Google Analytics, they block out bots. So, you
Right.
know, for decades, that's been the status quo with web analytics to block bots. And that's,
Right. Yeah, because
so
bots were noise.
bots were
You didn't.
noise. Hmm.
Yeah, you didn't want to have the bot traffic mixed in with data about humans visiting your
Hmm.
website. So yeah, Google Analytics blocks bots. It's also JavaScript based,
Yeah.
and when AI bots are visiting websites, they're usually not executing
Yeah.
JavaScript. And so most visits from AI bots to websites are invisible to
Hmm.
Google Analytics.
To Google
But I
Analytics.
but I
Correct.
remember initially our first thought was, at least, well, I'll say my first thought was not to try and track the AI bots themselves, but to try and track referral
Hmm.
visits coming where
Yeah.
so a human, going back to that example question, where can I get the best checking account in Salt Lake City? And then ChatGPT gives some answers. It lists this credit union, this bank, this credit union, this bank. And in those responses, ChatGPT is usually giving links where it's citing its sources and giving you
Right.
links to the websites of the different brands that it mentions.
Hmm.
And if you click on one of those links and you go to a financial institution's website, you will see at the end of the link there's a UTM parameter that
Hmm.
says something like UTM source equals ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And you see this across other agents as well, like I think Perplexity, Claude, they're all doing the same thing where you're getting that UTM source. So what that means is a human landed on the website and the source was that AI app. And so you can see that in Google
Yeah.
Analytics. But
Yeah.
so in our in our software product for Metrify, the Metrify app where we track conversion funnels and analytics for humans, we added a report on there to see LLM LLM referral
Hmm.
visits. And I remember us looking at those together, and it was just the amount of traffic, the number of referrals was so small
Hmm.
that it seemed like it was negligible.
Hmm.
Someone could have. I remember looking at one of our clients that gets a lot of traffic, and if someone's getting 100,000 users uh, in a time period, in that same time period, you might see like 100 LM referral visits, or honestly, even smaller than that, like 10. And we were like,
Yeah.
what is, what is, what is going on with this? This doesn't seem to add up with
Hmm.
the explosive growth and usage numbers that we were hearing from all these AI companies about how many users they have.
Yeah.
And just, in my own personal experience with using AI a lot, and lots of people that I know, like so many people are using AI. We're using AI then, so going back middle of last year, there were already, I want to say at the time, ChatGPT had 400 million weekly active users, and that was just ChatGPT, not counting all of the others. And so we're like, how can there be such explosive usage, and then we're not seeing
Yeah.
referrals?
Right.
And we still don't fully know the answer to that, but it seems that it's because, well, either people just aren't clicking the links, they're getting the information that they're looking for, and there's no reason for them to click the link, or they get that information and they end up going to the site directly, like through some other way rather than one way or another. It seems that most people are probably not clicking those links.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was a pretty quick thing to find those the referrals in Google Analytics. Anyone can do that. You can just look at the referring source. You could search for those URL parameters, like you said. That's easy to get to. But one thought I had when we saw that was, okay, there's got to be some bots that came before the human.
Mm.
So that, yeah, and that's when we embarked on that journey to figure out how do we see the bots from ChatGPT, the bots from Gemini, etc. And basically, we found them in the server logs. They were all there in the server logs,
Mm.
and so we basically figured out, okay, we just have to take a different route to grab these events, and so that's where we built out. We've got our WordPress plugin, we've got our Cloudflare app. These two things basically grab that footprint that from the bots and log them into our own system, since Google Analytics isn't doing it. And yeah, I'll tell you what, when I first saw the numbers, I thought, wow, this is a ton of activity. You look at for years, we've known search engines visit our websites, other crawlers, um, everyone from Russia to China is hitting your website. It's a lot of activity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it seems like there's just as much activity from ChatGPT and the other AI companies between the user bots, the search bots, the training bots. So their bots are constantly hitting the sites, and we see that. If you want to get into the difference between a user bot, a search bot, and a training bot, go for it. But to come back to the roundtable that we had, one of my favorite things was seeing for some of the folks in the roundtable, I think it was their first time seeing some of these numbers.
Yeah.
Not everyone has been able to install the WordPress plugin or hook up to the Cloudflare app to get those analytics, but quite a few did, and I think for many folks, that was their first time seeing how much bot traffic their credit union, their financial websites getting, or other folks in the roundtable were getting.
Yeah. There's a lot of AI bot traffic that's happening. So to explain a little bit more there about what you're talking about. So with tracking, basically the route we went is, instead of saying, well, where we saw there was this dissonance between what the numbers we were hearing about AI adoption and usage, and then these super small numbers for the referral traffic that we could see in Google Analytics. And so that's what led us to think, well, we need to track the actual bots that these AI companies are sending out on the internet to go visit websites. And yeah, like you said, we discovered that it took a bit of figuring out how we were going to track those bots. So you had started on a WordPress plugin, because with WordPress via a plugin, we're able to capture every request, whether from a human or a bot that comes to the website. And so every visit we can log that and determine what type of visit it is. And we're only, like, the WordPress plugin is only logging visits from AI bots. And then obviously the limitation there is, even though WordPress is the most used content management system in the world, but then even, across all industries, but then even specifically for financial institutions, it's the most used. But obviously there are a lot of other content management systems or even websites that aren't running CMSs, where a WordPress plugin isn't going to work for them. So then we were trying to figure out, well, how do we track AI bots on all these other websites? And the first thing that I developed there is I thought maybe pixel-based tracking would work. So the way it works with a good number of analytics companies, I think like Facebook and Meta, for their tracking, they actually use pixels. So it's a little 1x1 pixel image that when someone visits a page, that 1x1 invisible image gets loaded. And so that when that loads, there's a request to load that image that tells you that page was visited. And so I went down the path thinking that maybe that would be a good way to do it, because the hypothesis there is that when an AI bot is visiting your site to try and understand the content, like, oh, why wouldn't it request images so that it can see those images and interpret it as part of the content? So I tested that, but then found, nope. Uh, Sometimes AI bots will load assets like that, like images, or may request JavaScript files, even if it's not going to execute it, or may request style sheets like CSS. But I found that when I compared that data to what was being logged from the WordPress plugin, it was not even close to the amount of volume for bots requesting those sorts of assets. And so then, after some more research, so we had a good number of study participants. So 40 different credit unions and banks said they wanted to participate in this AI traffic study. And when we, one of the things that we discovered is most of them run Cloudflare. And Cloudflare, we thought, okay, that could be a way to get this data, because every visit, every request going to the website first goes through Cloudflare. And so after some more digging, we found, all right, yeah, we can get that data through Cloudflare. And so we built something called a Cloudflare worker, and that made it so that now through Cloudflare and through a WordPress plugin, two different methods where we can log every AI bot visit that's coming to credit union bank websites. And so in February, we started getting those installed on participants' websites. And from then until beginning of April, middle of April, I guess last week when I went and looked at the numbers, we had logged 3.5 million AI visits. And that was on 19 credit union and bank websites.
Wow.
Of 3.5 million visits. And if I were to go look at it now, we're probably past 4 million at this point, a week later. And that's one of the things that has been really interesting about tracking the data is just how much volume is there. Because one of the big questions that we had going into the study was, well, how significant is AI traffic at this point?
Yeah.
Is it like what we were seeing from the referral data where it's just negligible, or like is there a lot of activity going on? Like like you were saying, there's a lot going on.
There is a lot. Yeah.
And you mentioned the different types of activity though, where there are training bots, search bots, and user bots. Do you want to give I know we talked about this in a previous episode on the podcast, so we don't need to dive super deep into it, but do you want to just give a very brief overview of those different types of bots and why they matter?
Yeah. And I also want to say we've talked about some of the technical stuff behind how we track these bots. We've got the WordPress plugin, we've got the Cloudflare worker. I think the key takeaway for many listeners is going to be, if you want an easy way to get these analytics, installing the WordPress plugin is very easy. And then the Cloudflare worker is installed by enabling the app that we have in the Cloudflare app store. So
it's we're planning to develop an app in the App Store. It's in
got it.
That's something in the roadmap, but right now it's just setting up a Cloudflare worker. But to your point, in either case,
it's pretty easy.
It's like a 5-minute setup.
Okay.
Either route that you go. So that's something that I was really happy about is that I was a little worried initially with WordPress plugin. That's always easy, but on the Cloudflare side, I'm like, man, how painful is this going to be?
But it's not.
Yeah, but I was really happy that it's basically just copying and pasting a code snippet from the Paraloom app into Cloudflare.
Great.
And
much less painful than requesting server logs from IT or from your hosting provider.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you if you were to look at those logs directly, or if you were to look at your AI traffic in Paraloom, you will see 3 different types of bots. And the first and most important is the user bot. And these are bots that are going out onto the web in direct response to getting a prompt from a human. So someone's using ChatGPT, for example, and they ask about free checking account options in Salt Lake City. The user bot will go out to the web and visit websites. And that's what we see on our end, on the analytics end. If it hits our website, we see that.
Right. Yeah. So
that's
that
the
one
bot
you say is most important. Yeah. You say that's most important because it means there's actually a human on the other side of it.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And more interestingly, there's a human intent. There was a question, or there's a conversation, throughout the course of a conversation with ChatGPT, your agent could be visiting hundreds of website pages throughout the course of the conversation. So it's that activity that the user bot is responsible for. I like to just think of it as the bot working on behalf of a human during the course of a conversation in the LLM. And then the next type of bot you would see is the search bot. And I just think of this one like the Google bot, the Bing bot.
Right.
It is almost identical to, it serves the same function as search bots that we've all been accustomed to. You put a new page on your website or you launch a new website. One of the first things you hope for and are thinking about is, how quickly can we get the search engine bots to come see the site and index it? So it's a search indexing. I don't know how much companies like ChatGPT talk about how their search bots work, how often they're out on the web, how often you can expect them to revisit your website and find and index new content. But it it basically seems like these companies, ChatGPT and the lot, have somewhat of a search index similar to how Google maintains a search index, so that
Yeah.
I think their user bots can get to information faster. It's all about answering user questions and serving users throughout conversations faster and more effectively. Makes a lot of sense that ChatGPT, for example, OpenAI, would want to maintain their own index of the internet for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That's the search bot.
Yeah, and a couple of interesting things there. A few different things actually that come to mind. So, one is that I don't know for certain if this is true, but it may be the case that if your site has not been indexed by a search bot, then a user bot may not be able to find your web pages unless that indexing has taken place, unless there's something specifically prompting it.
I wouldn't say so. Unless it's let's say it's already indexed by Google, we do
Mhm.
know that user bots, one thing we can see in a user bot's in the activity of a prompt, we see that ChatGPT, for example, when it's trying to answer your question or help you out, it forms search queries that it's going to then go to Bing for. So perhaps OpenAI has never indexed your site or indexed a page on your site that you hope shows up. Well, if it's on the first 10 pages of Bing, there's still a good chance that the user bot will find it.
Okay, so you think so? I guess I was assuming that because I remember when we first started working on AI visibility and Paraloom, and we were simulating ChatGPT responses at that time. The API for ChatGPT did not have web search built into it, and so we had to give
Augment
to give the agent an ability to do Google searches,
Mm-hmm.
and then they came out with their ChatGPT, OpenAI came out with their own internal web search tool.
Yeah.
And I guess I've been assuming, and if you have other information about this, please share that the way that the search indexing works is similar to how Google search works, where if you put out a new page on your website and it has not been indexed by Google, and you go do a Google search for that page, it will not show up in the search engine results until it has been indexed. Right. And so I assumed it was similar, where if the web search tool that these agents are using to find content does not have your content indexed, then when AI goes to do a search that your content would not show up.
No, yeah, I think that the use cases are different between Google and companies like OpenAI. So
Mm.
Google is going to index for sake of placing you in the search engine listings, and to make those listings pop up insanely quickly, instantly. I think that I'll just continue using OpenAI as the example, but this would go
Yeah.
for Claude, Gemini, and the rest. I think their use case is a little bit different. I don't think they intend on creating their own version of the internet indexed as a means to replace search engines like Google and Bing. I think for OpenAI, it's about token usage, and it's about using less tokens. It's about reducing the number of times that they have to use the LLM to parse your content, to read your content. It can be it's pretty expensive getting a web page that could be a giant wall of text and using an LLM to read through it and find the information that's relevant to different queries.
Mm.
So I think it's about saving on tokens. So I think what they're indexing is the meaning and the useful information on the page itself. So that, let's say, the user bot, because the user bots they almost always start with they may always start with a search query. That's what you can see in the responses behind the scenes.
Right.
It's always starting with 5, sometimes 10 Bing searches specifically. Top checking account Salt Lake City, checking account Salt Lake City 2026, checking account reviews and rating, Reddit, checking accounts, best checking accounts Salt Lake City,
Right.
Reddit,
Yeah. It's taking whatever the user asked about, and then it's formulating search queries to
search
go
queries.
do a
And
web
then,
search.
yeah, imagine because we've seen these user bots pick up on content that's on page 10 of Google, and you're like, what? You went all the way to page 10? So just imagine for a second, if you ask about best auto loan in Salt Lake City and it formulates 5 search queries and it goes back 10 pages per search query. What is that? 500 pages? OpenAI would love to know what's on each and every one of those pages beforehand. Without OpenAI would only want to look at every one of those pages one time ever.
Ideally, yeah, and then it
Ideally.
stores that information, and then it can recall it later.
Yes, that is search indexing for agents. Now, does Google do the same thing? Yeah, I'm sure they do, right? Um, every Google wants to know, is your page worthy of, rank number 2? I think it's going to reevaluate that all the time. So how does it determine whether your page deserves the rank it currently has? It's got to know what content's on the page. So are they indexing content as well? Yeah, I'm sure they are. Sorry.
It's all right. You got some cameos
Yeah,
today.
I've got some cameos. So I think the use case is a little bit different. It's about, indexing the content, the meaning, the facts of your content for AI bots. And then, do you want to
And
go
to
on?
be
ahead.
clear here, is this conjecture on your part, or has your research shown you that this is exactly what the search bots are
This
doing?
is partially conjecture.
Okay.
What I do know is fact is that the LLL companies they're constantly innovating on how to do more while using less tokens. And
Sure.
so
Yeah.
if you're interested in the technical side, and a lot of them are open about their 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 technology teams. Um, you know, they have their own webinars. They blog about and talk about how they're innovating and what they're doing. So if you follow any of that, so that a lot of this is coming from just following the teams behind the technology at some of these companies, because
Yeah,
I work with it. I'm deeply interested in it. Do they talk about the the game plan? Do they give away their secrets? No, there's quite a bit that they don't say for, competitive reasons.
sure.
Um,
Yeah. So as it stands right now, we may not know all of the details about what exactly search bots are indexing or how they're indexing things, but nonetheless, we know that they are specifically sending search bots that are identifiable and they are indexing content. And if you want to be shown, if you want your brand to be mentioned by ChatGPT, then you want your content to be indexed.
mhm.
If it's not indexed, then it's the equivalent of your content not being indexed by Google for Google searches. If it's not indexed, then uh, you either aren't going to show up or it's a lot less likely that you're going to show up. So, and we said let's do a quick definition of each of these, and we ended up talking about that one for a long time. But so we've got user bots, search bots, and training bots. Just give us a quick recap on training bots.
Yeah, I think it's okay that we spend time on this because it's actually it can be it's I think it's really important, and I've got to explain why. But real quick, the third bot is the training bot. This is the bot that comes after the rest. It's the chief dog. I think it could be, if you see the training bot in your analytics, you're doing something well. That's a big conjecture. The training bot shows up to say, "Hey, we think this is worthy to go into the model's training." Training is the underlying brain and intelligence of the LLM itself. So if the training bot shows up, that's a signal that there's some content on the page that the LLM is interested in, perhaps including in training. What
Yeah,
what does that mean? You've got to think about token usage optimization. They want to avoid spending or using new tokens, burning new tokens. This this is the data center. This is power usage. This is costly.
well, and
So
it's how
when
they make their models better.
better,
Is they need massive amounts of data to teach AI
Mhm.
how to be intelligent.
Right?
And I mean, I think I think of the three types of bots, the user bots are
Yes.
directly most interesting.
Yeah.
If a user bot is showing up on your site, that there means there's a human on the other side that's asking some sort of question
Mhm.
that's leading the bot to visit
Yeah.
your site. Like that's
Yeah.
probably closest to getting a human visit your
Right.
website.
Yeah.
Whereas search bots are, they're indexing, they're coming to learn about your content so that uh, AI in the future can tell people about your content. So you definitely want those on
Mhm.
your site. Now, training bots, I may, and I don't know, it sounds like we may have different perspectives on this, but in
Yeah.
my mind, I'm like, I don't know how valuable it is actually to have training bots on your website. Like in one sense, for sure, like if you want AI to know about your brand just without it even having to do a search, then yeah, you probably want your data to go into the training,
Mhm.
because then that opens up that possibility. Like I'm pretty sure at this point that if you went and talked to an LLM that had no search capabilities and you asked it about Apple or Google or Nike,
It knows all
it's
about
going to know all about them without doesn't need to do any search to know general information about those and probably even some very specific information, just perhaps not any real time, and for sure not any real time information. So from that sense, it seems like you would want the training bots consuming your content and going into the training model. But on the other hand, I don't know if you're not a massive brand, like household name, it's hard to say if the AI would know about your brand and your products and services, just like baked into the model. And I want to share some of our data that we collected on like how many bots are visiting these financial institution sites, and what the breakdown is between the different bots, to give some context here, because training bots are overwhelmingly the super majority of the traffic that's coming to financial institution websites, and I would guess probably all websites right now. So here's some benchmark data. So for the financial institutions that participated in the study, they got the AI traffic bot tracking onto their sites. And we compiled how many total visits they received from AI bots over the last 30 days. And total bot visits were 47,920. So about 48,000 visits. This is the median. Really, at the average, it's actually a lot higher than that, meaning that the sites that are getting the most traffic are getting a lot more traffic than the ones that are getting a small amount of traffic. I'm going off of memory here, but I want to say the average was about double the median. But I'm using the median just to give you, like, that's the that's kind of like the best indicator of what the the true middle of the pack looks like.
Yeah.
So 47,920, 48,000 visits from all types of AI bots.
Wow.
And by contrast, in that same 30-day time period for those same websites that we're evaluating, we went and looked at, well, how does that compare to the number of human page views they're getting in a 30-day period? And that number is 49,106. So basically 49,000 versus 48,000. So we're at a point now where bot traffic is equal to the number of human visits that financial institutions are getting on their websites. But when you break that down, 88% of that traffic is training bots, 7% search bots, 4% user bots.
Interesting.
So vast majority are training bots. But even at 4% for user bots, the smallest, that means that there are about 2,000 visits per month that are coming to the website as a direct result of a human on the other side. Or, if we're this is making some assumptions, but basically if you take your human page views, whatever that number is, around 4% of that number is going to be user bots. But it's important to know, when we were doing some research on the data for this, we found that the number of citations that, so we were looking at one, I'm thinking of one credit union in particular that we were talking about, and you and I were talking about in preparation for this roundtable. And these are just rough numbers from memory, but in the time period we were looking at, ChatGPT had cited pages on their site. So, either mentioned in a response or listed in its citations
Right.
when it's giving a response. It had cited them about 100 and I think it was 168 times in the time period we were looking at. And then but then the number of user bot visits was about half of that.
Mhm.
So meaning that there were citations that didn't result in a user bot visit being logged, which could mean, going back to our conversation about search bots, that could mean that ChatGPT was able to reference content on that website without having to send a bot to go
Yeah.
visit the site.
Yeah.
So the true, like, your true visibility in AI is potentially higher than the amount of traffic that you're seeing, which then makes it where, yeah, like maybe user bots are the most interesting. I think they are. Search bots are interesting. Uh, but it's like I think you still want to track all of them and think about all of them because, uh, it may not be like a one-to-one thing.
Yeah.
In like you may be getting cited more than what you
Yeah.
can see directly in the bot traffic analytics. So you want to have those all of those bot traffic measurements in place so you can see it from that perspective. And the AI visibility data where we're tracking those citations is also, that's another piece to the puzzle. So a lot that we learned from this study. I want to wrap up here in about 2 minutes and just briefly touch on the last thing that I think is maybe most interesting with all of this. And that is I mentioned NW Preferred earlier, and I mentioned how they went from 0% visibility to 100% visibility by publishing targeted content. And uh, then what we saw for their AI traffic analytics is that those two pieces of content that they published, one of them was getting the most views from user bots, more views than any other content on their website.
Interesting.
And the other piece of content they published was in rank number 3,
Yeah.
third most AI traffic.
Yeah.
Second most was their homepage.
Yeah.
So what's so interesting about that is it means that increasing AI visibility increased their AI traffic because those pages didn't exist until they were created for the purpose of AI visibility. And we need to do more research on this front to be able to, more definitively say, like how much AI visibility is a driver of AI traffic. Like, does it account for 100% of AI traffic, or are but what we can say for sure at this point is that for NW Preferred that I mentioned, and for several others that we went and evaluated, we saw that increasing visibility for, like, creating new content that took them from low visibility to higher visibility also correlated with AI traffic.
Yep.
So if you want to, in this new era of agentic web where AI bots are visiting your website on behalf of humans instead of the humans visiting themselves, you need to think of AI bot traffic as being the new type of traffic that you want to your site. It means that there's engagement It means that AI is aware of you. It even means that humans are being told about your brand by AI. So you want that bot traffic, and it appears that increasing your AI visibility is the way to get more bot traffic. And so far, we've seen from over 40 experiments that we've run, the best way to increase your visibility is to publish targeted content onto your website that answers specific questions. So I want to leave it with that. Any last thoughts here that you want to share?
Just that I'm seeing myself, AI is looking for different content. So you say targeted content. If after this, if you can see your human traffic next to your agent traffic, let us help you get that set up.
Kylie from HR just told me you're not allowed to say human traffic.
Oh, sorry. user traffic, agent traffic, and you look at your top content. The top content that I'm seeing across different accounts, financial institution accounts on Parallel, the top agent traffic looks different. It's not the auto loan page, the home page. It's different, longer form content, sometimes articles. So big takeaway here is you want AI visibility, so you get AI traffic. So what does that content need to look like? It's going to look a little bit different. So as soon as you can, if you can get your user traffic, Google Analytics, top pages, top content up next to your agent traffic, top pages, top content, they're going to look different. There's asymmetry. Very interesting to see. So
Yeah. Personally, I find all of this very exciting. What we need to talk about on a future episode is how we are finding that we can use AI to optimize for AI search.
Yeah.
Very, very meta. And furthermore, that we're seeing some big leaps in being able to make the process of optimizing for AI search a fully autonomous process using AI. So I'm excited to talk more about that. But
let's do it.
Harmon, thanks for coming on the show again.
Yeah, you bet. See ya.